Welcome everybody to the Liturgy of the Chalice. Today we're going to discuss the secret Halakha of Mar Yeshua. This is part one of a three-part series. Hidden teachings of the Master Jesus. Many Orthodox and modern Christians say there are no hidden or secret teachings. Both the Christian Testament and accounts of early church fathers disagree. Here we find in Matthew chapter 13, verses 10 through 11, "Then the disciples came and asked him, 'Why do you speak to them in parables?' He answered, 'To you it has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given.'" So the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, in Aramaic, that would be the secrets of the Malkuth of heaven, the sovereignty of heaven, the rulership of heaven. So here it's very clear from the canonical gospel Matthew that some things were said to some people and some things were said to other people. So there was a distinction. In hidden or secret teachings shouldn't make you assume that the Master Jesus, Mar Yeshua, was elitist or exclusive. In fact, he was very inclusive. He mixed with various forms of so-called sinners. He mixed with women, which was very much not the custom of the time. Male ravs, which eventually became rabbis, did not accept women students or disciples. Mar Yeshua did, which was very much against the custom of his times. The hidden and secret teachings should be thought of as teachings for those that are dedicated. Mar Yeshua traveled by foot with a small entourage, the disciples and some of their close students of his, from town to town, and they taught in public. Sometimes he would teach on the plain, on the mountain, and many times he would preach from a boat that was anchored a little bit away from shore, where he could teach the public that way. So Mar Yeshua traveled and he taught publicly, and it attracted a lot of attention. But as with many styles of spirituality and spiritual teachers, they attract people of all kinds. Not everybody is as dedicated to a path as some become. In fact, relatively few people become truly dedicated to anything. So Mar Yeshua, he wasn't elitist, he wasn't exclusive, but he kept certain teachings private. He kept those teachings for those that showed up, for those that were dedicated, for those that showed a little bit of follow through. So to those that kept coming back, that would serve his mission, he would invite them into private seders, which is a Jewish sacred meal. And in the course of the Seder, which eventually evolved to become the Liturgy of the Chalice or the Mass at the altar, what happened back then most likely was a Seder in which they offered bread and wine, as we do on Fridays during the sacrament of Shabbat. And during the course of that small liturgy, Mar Yeshua would teach inner circle teachings. He would teach spiritual practices, meant for those that were truly dedicated to him and to his teachings, to the basor, the proclamation. So there was hidden teachings evident to the church fathers. This was a letter of Clement of Alexandria. Clement of Alexandria was one of the first bishops of the church. Here's what it says in the letter. It's a segment of this relatively small letter. basically a secret teaching had gotten into the hands of somebody that shouldn't have it. And a lot of questions arose from that, from somebody that had become associated with this group of what Clement called heretics. But anyhow, during the course of this answering concerns, we get a little peek that there were hidden teachings of Jesus known to the early church fathers that has not come through to this time. Or if it's known by the Vatican or other church sources, they simply aren't sharing that information with the world. But here we have in the letter of Clement of Alexandria, something about a book called Secret Mark, a secret book of Mark. As for Mark then, during Peter's stay in Rome, he wrote an account of the Lord's doings, not however declaring all of them, nor yet hinting at the secret ones, but selecting what he thought most useful for increasing the faith of those who were being instructed. But when Peter died a martyr, Mark came over to Alexandria, bringing both his own notes and those of Peter, from which he transferred to his former book the things suitable to whatever makes for progress toward knowledge. Thus he composed a more spiritual gospel for the use of those who are being perfected. Nevertheless, he yet did not divulge the things not to be uttered, nor did he write down the hierophontic teaching of the Lord. But to the stories already written, he added yet others, and moreover, brought in certain sayings of which he knew the interpretation would, as a mystagogue, lead the hearers into the innermost sanctuary of that truth, hidden by 7 veils. Thus, in some, he prepared matters neither grudgingly nor incautiously, in my opinion, and dying, he left his composition to the church, where it even yet is most carefully guarded, being read only to those who are being initiated into the great mysteries. So, whoa, a first bishop of the church is talking about some secret stuff that Mar Yeshua taught, but it's not taught to everybody. It's taught to only those being initiated into the great mysteries. The mysteries of the Malkuth, the sovereignty of God, the sovereignty of heaven. So here it's very clear in this letter, this historical document, that Mark had 2 gospels. The Gospel of Mark that we're commonly reading from, that all churches commonly read from, and there is another book, a secret book of Mark, with more stories and certain sayings from Mar Yeshua that act as a mystagogue, something that would illuminate the mind, wake up the mind. So, there is a recording, or was a recording, of secret teachings of Mar Yeshua. And we'll talk more about this letter next week, because the letter describes a secret one-on-one initiation between Mar Yeshua and a young man. A secret one-on-one spiritual initiation. And we'll talk about that next week and what that may be interpreted as. So, hierophontic teaching of the Lord. What is a hierophontic teaching? Well, what's a hierophant? A hierophant, which comes from ancient Greek, is a person who brings religious congregants into the presence of that which is deemed holy. As such, a hierophant is an interpreter of sacred mysteries and arcane principles. The word comes from ancient Greece, where it was constructed from the combination of ta hiera, the holy, and phainai, to show. To show the holy, to reveal the holy, which is to reveal God, to reveal the spirit of things. So, Mar Yeshua had hierophantic teaching, which allowed one to be in the presence of the divine. And he would interpret certain sacred mysteries or dramas, possibly, that would help to awaken his disciples' minds. Mystagogue. What is a mystagogue? A mystagogue, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is a teacher or propounder of mystical doctrines. So in the book, the secret book of Mark, often just called Secret Mark, there were sayings that propounded mystical doctrines. What is a mystic? A mystic is somebody that seeks to become one with God. None of these teachings are popularly taught. We're going to explore more of what these hidden teachings are in the weeks to come. The first thing that I want to discuss whenever it comes to the secret or hidden teachings of Mar Yeshua is the term shakad. Shakad is a Hebrew word. The Aramaic version is mishkad. Shakad translates as watch in many cases throughout the Christian Testament. Shakad is a spiritual vigil and is a form of Kabbalistic, even pre-Kabbalistic, meditation. Mishkad comes from the same trilateral root, meaning awakening. Mishkad is a meditation or spiritual vigil on the divine Christ light within. So when you go through different Bibles, especially the King James Version, you'll see a lot of phrases with the term watch. In the Garden of Gethsemane in the King James Version, it says, could you not even keep watch for 1 hour? And watch, when you roll back the word to the Hebrew, is shakad, which means to keep a vigil, which implies a form of meditation that creates an awakening. The meditation is often on white light, or a point of light. So again, anytime you see stuff about watch and stay awake, in many instances, you're talking about shakad, which is a form of Kabbalistic meditation on divine light. Saint Teresa of Avila is a marvelous Christian mystic and perfected one. Although her great writings are not highly organized, they contain amazing instruction on the art of verbal and internal prayer and recollection, which can be considered a form of meditation. She describes a form of shakad, or meditation, on one-pointed Christ light in her writings she left for us to study. We will be examining the basics of these teachings in greater detail in future talks. I wanted to also state that the reason why her writings were not highly organized was because she was in charge of a lot of convents, and she didn't have a lot of time. She didn't have specified office hours. So she would write whenever she could, and sometimes there'd be days or weeks in between her writings. And she would also submit those writings to spiritual authorities, so she wouldn't have them to refer back to. So oftentimes she'll apologize and say, I may have already said this, or I'm repeating this, or I feel like I'm repeating myself. And sometimes the teachings don't go in chronological order. It's actually something I would like to do with my life, is put her teachings in a chronological order, where you can have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So I haven't seen anybody do that yet with her works. And it's a great need whenever we look at hidden teachings of Mar Yeshua, because I believe that she discovered or rediscovered these hidden teachings in the inner laboratory of her consciousness. Also, in addition to not being highly organized, she was very sick. She was sickly and in pain most of the time when she was writing through until the end of her life. So she had a lot of distractions, which is why it might seem like some of her writings are piecemeal. But we're going to discuss a few aspects of her teachings 2 weeks from now. So Mishkad, or any form of meditation, requires solitude. You don't need to go out to the desert or out to the forest or climb a mountain, but you should at least have a room or a corner or a closet where you can sit down and be alone for a little bit of time. Meditation also doesn't require a lot of time. You can spend 5 minutes as a beginner in meditative silence, seeking the light within. Mar Yeshua, the Master Jesus, taught in cities, in public, where his basor, proclamation or gospel, could be received. To meditate, reflect, and contemplate, Mar Yeshua would do regular retreats in the desert, where worldly distractions and sounds of the daily hustle and bustle would not disturb him. What is the meaning of the devil tempting Jesus in the desert? I believe that there are different levels of interpretation whenever you read any gospel verse. In my belief of a deeper inner meaning of the temptation of Christ by the devil in the desert is that Mar Yeshua is simply purifying his mind and his heart. Negative thoughts, words, deeds, habits, we all have to reflect on them in order to transcend them. And the devil on a deeper level simply is a symbol for the Yetzer Hara, the negative or selfish inclination that's within every human heart that's not yet perfected. So what this was, it was an example. Mar Yeshua is made into an example of a perfected being that transcends the temptations of our lower inclinations and tendencies. But like John the Baptist, Jesus would retreat into the desert and into the wilderness to have alone time, because he was kind of a celebrity in those days. People would rush up to him and grab his garments, hoping to be healed. People would press on him. Not everybody liked him. Many people followed him to arrest him and kill him. So there was a lot of stress and mixed vibrations around him whenever he taught his basor in public. So he would seek to retreat into the wilderness for personal spiritual practice, personal spiritual reflection. And during this time, he would practice shakad, or spiritual vigil. And again, many times when you see the word watch or stay awake in different versions of the Bible, when you roll the word watch back, the Hebrew word is shakad, which is a form of Kabbalistic meditation on divine light. So here we have Elijah. You see different artistic renditions of Elijah here. And Elijah very much influenced Mar Yeshua's teachings, as did Isaiah and Jeremiah. They were some of the Hebrew Testament prophets that shaped and influenced Mar Yeshua's basor. So here in 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 42, we see Elijah went up to the top of Carmel. There he bowed himself down upon his knees. So here, a form of Jewish meditation, or what we can interpret as early Jewish meditation, was Elijah getting down and putting his head between his knees. This was a position that he would go into, and whenever he rose from meditation, he would share prophecies. So the next verse here is from the same book, chapter 19, verses 8 through 9. He, Elijah, got up and ate and drank. Then he went in the strength of that good 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mount of God. At that place he came to a cave and spent the night there. So we see some things imitated by Mar Yeshua from Elijah, or what we can see or know of Elijah from the Hebrew Testament. Mystical experience or meditation or divine light is perceived on top of mountains. Carmel is a mountain and Horeb is a mountain. In the Christian Testament, you see Jesus taking James, John, and Peter up a mountain where they have an experience of divine light. And in that divine light, they see Mar Yeshua talking with both Moses and Elijah, conversing. So these mystical experiences of meditation and light seem to happen on mountains, or at least in secluded places, is what we might say nowadays. Here in the second verse, we see that Elijah went into a cave and spent the night there. So again, you're seeing that mystical spiritual practice takes place in seclusion, in solitary confines. A cave. And today our cave might be a garage, it might be a private room if you have space in your house to make a meditation and prayer room, or it might be just a corner of your bedroom where you have space to make a small prayer altar. But Elijah spent the night in mystical communion with God. And in the next verses following this in 1 Kings, he would come out from that mystical experience with prophecies to share for the people, with inspiration to share with people. And that's what happened when Mar Yeshua would retreat into the desert. Notice here that Elijah fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. Who does that sound like? Sounds like Jesus. After he was baptized by St. John, the next thing that's recorded is that he went to the desert and fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. And during that time in the desert, he had a lot of quiet time to reflect, to meditate, to do a watch, a spiritual vigil, or what is called shakad. As implied by the Transfiguration event, Mar Yeshua was very identified with Elijah. Elijah influenced his teaching style, his spiritual retreats into nature, and meditations, which lead to prophetic utterances, devarim, and parables, mashalim. Here's an example of Mar Yeshua talking about shakad, or meditation, spiritual vigil, all the same thing. Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee and began to be grieved and agitated. And then he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and stay awake with me." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not what I want, but what you want." Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, "So could you not stay awake with me 1 hour? Stay awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." Again he went away for the second time and prayed, "My Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done." Of course, this is a scene before Jesus' arrest, his torture, and his execution. But here it's very important to look at the areas of the text that I've underlined on the screen for you. Stay awake. Stay awake, when you roll it back, is the Hebrew shakad, Aramaic mishkad, which means a spiritual vigil, a type of meditation. So he's saying, could you not meditate with me even for an hour? And by meditating, that's focusing on God. When you focus on God in meditation, many difficulties in life become mitigated or even eliminated. So my intuition, although people can interpret this many different ways, is that he was telling them to meditate so they could be calm, so that they could face this very dire situation that was about to happen. He was reminding them that when things get difficult, go into your closet, into your heart, and be present with God. And that is how you can mitigate pain and suffering in the world. Here's another verse from Mark chapter 13, verses 32 through 37. "But about that day or hour no one knows, neither the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Beware, keep alert, for you do not know when the time will come. It is like a man going on a journey, when he leaves home and puts his slaves in charge, each with his own work, and commands the doorkeeper to be on the watch. Therefore keep awake, for you do not know when the master of the house will come, in the evening, or at midnight, or at cock crow, or at dawn, or else he may find you asleep when he comes suddenly. And what I say to you, I say to all, keep awake." These terms, keep awake, keep alert. When you roll back the words to Hebrew, it's shakad. Keep a spiritual vigil. Meditate. Again, shakad is a Kabbalistic form of meditation on divine light, which is how we practice meditation in this tradition, in this church. Keep alert. And what I say to you, I say to all. Keep a spiritual vigil. Keep meditating. Because in meditation, that's where we discover our immortality. That's where we have true communion with God and all perfected beings, with the Bar Enosh, the Son of Mankind corporate Messiah. Remember that the Bar Enosh is the Babylonian concept of Messiah, which is an anointed new humanity. It's not one Messiah, but it's each human becoming anointed by God. And that anointing is a type of illumination. And we don't know the day or hour when we'll truly be fully illuminated, truly perfected in divine light. And neither do the angels or heaven nor the Son, but only the Abba. So keep on having a spiritual vigil. Keep on meditating. Meditation is opening the door for God's light to come in, pulling back the curtains of the window and letting rays of light come inside. You don't know when the master of the house will come. The master is God. The house is our body and our mind. You don't know when illumination will fully occur, when it will consummate you and make you an individual Baranash as part of the whole corporate Messiah, the new humanity, the second Adam. We don't know when we'll be perfected. We have to keep on striving and keep on striving. But human effort is not enough. Everybody thinks they can do it themselves, and guess what? You can't. A person can take themselves very far, but you need God to take you the rest of the way. And you need the influence of great spiritual masters such as Mar Yeshua, and also the grace and the blessings that flow from the Baranash down to us, striving to become married with the Baranash. Keep awake, because you don't know when the anointing will happen. This is not about the end of the world. Many people interpret this as the son of Jesus, the Messiah ben David, and Jesus ridiculed the Messiah ben David in the same Gospel of Mark. This is not about the end of the world. Watching for the end of the world, we don't know when it's coming, but just be prepared for the second coming of Jesus. That is not it. This is very deep. It's about meditation, transformation, and spiritual light of Shakad. It's about keeping a spiritual vigil. It's about meditating until you marry your soul with God. Mystical union with the divine is what these verses are about. Some more watch phrases or meditative phrases. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. This is how it looks like in Matthew chapter 6, verse 22 in the King James Version. And it's my favorite version of this verse. If the light of the body is the eye, if therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. So eye represents a point of focus. There's a Jewish idiom that refers to the eye as being the single eye of the heart, meaning the spiritual heart center. And there you can focus on light. But I believe the eye can be any single point of focus. It could be focusing on light in the head, at the point between your eyebrows. You can imagine light in any part of your body. But the point is that you're focused singly. Your eye, your focus is singular. And when you focus on that one point, then your whole body will be filled with divine light. In the form of Shakad that we practice in this church, we imagine the upper half of the head filled with divine white light, the Christ light. And we sit in that experience, become absorbed, let our consciousness become absorbed and expanded in divine light. In the New Oxford Annotated Bible, which I often use for these classes, because it's a scholarly, independent translation that's not motivated by any dogma or doctrine. That's why I really like the New Oxford Annotated Bible. I recommend you get it too. The eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? So again, we're talking about the eye, singular. If your focus is healthy, if it's whole, then your whole body will be full of divine light. You'll be consecrated, purified, sanctified in the Christ light. And that is what Shakad is about. If you want to explore the Christ light meditation, we do this in smaller groups. So you can always join our meditation groups. You can just simply message me if you're interested. And we have guided meditation. But meditating on the Christ light, performing Shakad, is very simple. You can just sit at the edge of a chair, sitting upright, with your palms upright on your lap. Relax your whole body, part by part from your feet up to your head. Then you can say the Master's Prayer slowly and thoughtfully. Our Father and Mother God, who art in the heavens, may thy way be hallowed in every heart. May thy inner guidance be manifested in every soul. And may thy good will be done on earth as it is in heaven. You say the Master's Prayer, the Lord's Prayer, like that, very slowly, drinking in and savoring every word. And then be aware of every inhalation and exhalation. Just be aware of your breath as it comes in and as it goes out. This will deepen your relaxation. And then finally, focus within the upper half of your head, the upper half of your cranium, and imagine it filling with divine white Christ light, like the full moon. These two pictures are very inspirational for this kind of meditation. Literally, what is enlightened if not your brain? What is illumined if not your brain? So you imagine divine white light filling the upper half of your head or the brain, creating an expansion of consciousness. I also personally like to imagine that the white Christ light is like the full moon within my head. And you just sit silently. If you don't see light, just focus your attention in the upper half of your head and relax. You'll get the same benefit. After meditating deeply for 5 to 10 minutes, pray to the Abba with your personal intentions. Seek to know and experience God. Be open to spiritual revelations and even prophetic influxes. Close with a heartfelt, short prayer of gratitude. This is one way of doing Shikad. 5 to 10 minutes. Quality is always more important than quantity. Quality of meditation is more important than the amount of time you spend meditating. Let your eye, your focus, be single, and let the whole head fill with divine white light. Do this daily, and notice how you change. Notice how you feel before meditating and after meditating. Your whole life will be transformed if you do just this. Meditation does not need to be complicated. It can be very simple, very direct, and take you to the heights of unity with divinity.